Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our curator conversation. I am Jodie Nelson, and I'll be curating a show in Seattle titled Beyond an Inconvenient Truth. And today I'm talking with one of the artists participating in the event. His name is Christian Murillo, and he is one of the newest members to Earth Creative. And I have the honor of speaking with him today about his work. So, hi, Christian. How are you doing?
How's it going, Jody? Appreciate you having me here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're hot off the presses.
Yeah, yeah. Just finished working on a book from the Skagit River watershed in the North Cascades. So literally hot off the press. But yeah, I'm super excited to be a part of the show.
Absolutely. Man, I was looking at your newest project. It's called Soul of the Skagit. Absolutely love the title. And as I moved out here to the Pacific Northwest when I was a teenager, so that's been over 30 years now. And I have a lot of family up in Skagit Valley. So as soon as I saw the title Soul to the Skagit, I just was like, I have to be a part of it somehow. Tell us a little bit more about that project, especially, your affinity to what you're doing in the book, more the
Yeah, so the project started, when the pandemic hit. I've only lived in the Pacific Northwest for a little over 4 years now. And the first couple years that I was here, I really just was kind of getting out in the backcountry as frequently as possible, just trying to build, a local portfolio to, start building my business and grow my roots here in the Pacific Northwest. But when the pandemic hit, there was a period of time where, even like hiking was off limits. They were like, stay off the trails. We don't know, how contagious or anything. So while that was a huge bummer, because that's not only, how I spend my time working, that's, my release as well. It was a great opportunity to slow down and start thinking about my kind of long-term goals a lot more than just the next photograph that I wanted to create individually. And I wanted to test myself in a kind of long form storytelling capacity. And I've always been gravitated towards the mountains, and particularly glaciated mountains. And I started reading some research papers on glacial melt here in the Pacific Northwest, because the last project I worked on similar to this was in Bolivia. And with traveling off limits, I was like, no, I have all the resources here, within my home region to kind of, tell some sort of story here. So I started talking to different professors, glaciologists, geologists, and asking them like, hey, like if you, could focus your entire career on one area, where would it be? And that kind of got me honed into the Thunder Creek watershed, which is a tributary of the Skagit up in the North Cascades. And it's just, the highest concentration of glaciated landscapes in the lower 48. And the real attraction to me wasn't that it was just like this far off wilderness place. And while it is fantastic wilderness, it's also super close to where millions of people live. And so that tie between these glacial landscapes and real people's lives was super intricately woven together, and that was super important to me, because I didn't want this project to be just about some far off wilderness. I wanted people to be able to relate to it and to be able to see the importance in a way that wasn't so abstract. So yeah, 3 years later, the book's pretty much done. Just finished the pre-sales, so hopefully it'll be in bookstores by June, July.
absolutely. Yeah, the Skagit is so close to the metropolitan
Yeah.
city of Seattle. And it's home to, like, what is it? The second largest nature preserve, or the largest preserve for the bald eagle, second to Alaska to come down. And that's
Yeah.
probably why I like the Skagit, just for my own climate science and my own personal passions. Is I was in the rafting industry
Yeah.
before, and just taking the tours and floating along the Skagit River during like December, we've got snow on the ground, and just being able to be in that real mysterious fog and seeing all the eagles come in and feasting on all the salmon. What were you
Yeah.
saying the other day, that the river has all the species of salmon, or
Yeah,
four?
it's the only river in the continental US with all five species of Pacific salmon. And 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 like it also has steelhead and bull trout, which are both salmonids as well. So it's kind of like the last great stronghold for salmon in the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, chum, coho, chinook, sockeye, and pink salmon, all five. And yeah, it's in steelhead and bull trout and chinook. They're all listed as threatened species under the Endangered Species Act. But the Skagit contributes 60% of Puget Sound Chinook into the Puget Sound. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's like the last great river that's still, pumping out these fish that are the favorite food for the orcas in the Puget Sound and Salish Sea, and just like a culturally iconic family of fish as well. What they mean to different people across the Pacific Northwest is deeply personal, but they mean something to almost everyone that lives here.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I have experienced that along the way too. Well, thank you for talking about the Skagit and all its inhabitants, and how everybody is relating to one another, or how we should be relating more to everybody.
Yeah, it's all about connections at the end
Yeah.
of the day. Like, while I could talk about salmon or orcas or ice worms up in the glaciers, like I could talk your ear off about that stuff. And while those individual things are important, the real focus of the book is the connection between all of those elements, and more importantly, how we connect to that stuff as well. Because I think kind of understanding where we fit within these natural systems
Yes.
helps us develop a perspective
Yeah.
that helps us see ourselves not above these natural systems. Like,
Absolutely.
we are part of them. And just that like subtle change in your perspective really affects, the decisions you make as a consumer, as a voter, just day-to-day habits, that
Yeah. Can
that
we
kind
get
of.
a hallelujah?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, and that's my goal, just to kind of get everyone to see themselves as a part of the natural world. And I
And
think the conversations around conservation and climate change can then be a lot easier and a lot less politically charged if we just have that little change in perspective.
change in perspective. Yes. It would be less polarizing if we could just engage one another and connect, have something to
Yeah.
connect on. Absolutely. Well, connecting to that creative spirit is always something I find interesting with artists. Was there like a magical moment that you just knew that you were going to become the photographer? Was it maybe more gradual, or did you just have one lightning bolt that hit you?
No, I wouldn't say it was one lightning bolt. Basically, I started photography in high school, and I picked photography because it was the elective that all my friends were choosing. It was supposed to be the easiest elective to get an A in. And like I just knew like all my buddies were going to be in class, and we're just going to be like messing around for like a year. And
Yeah.
then I get in the dark room and I was like, wait, like guys, I actually like this stuff, and it was kind of like I almost had to tiptoe around that because my friends that they're just screwing around, not taking it seriously at all. But I kind of realized, I really liked the methodical approach you needed to take in the dark room. I like the quietness,
Absolutely.
even the smell of the chemicals a little bit. It's a bummer that I don't do any work in the dark room anymore, but that was a super important foundation. But no, to go back to your question, photography stayed on the back burner a little bit. When I was in college, I studied industrial engineering, so very far away from photography. And I was still, getting out on some hikes here and there. But I grew up in Florida, and people don't hike in Florida. Like I don't know how many Floridians but it's just not something you do. Like it's always hot. There's a lot of animals that could kill you, you know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so
Alligators
people,
are real.
yeah, the alligators, the snakes, the spiders, mosquitoes, you know,
Yes.
you name it. So
My brother lives there. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's just one of those things that, you know, when I would tell my friends I'm going hiking, they'd be like, why? Like, why would you do that, especially by yourself? That doesn't sound fun at all. So yeah, photography kind of stayed on the back burner. And then after I graduated college, I traveled around the world for 4 months, visiting 10 different countries. And that was kind of like the nail in the coffin for me in terms of like my ambition to live kind of typical life. You know, I knew that I wanted to explore, and I already signed a contract to start a job in engineering afterwards. And I knew, you know, after that I would have 10 or 12 days of PTO every year, and that wasn't really going to be enough to quench my thirst for travel and new experiences. So you know, I considering I'd invested so much in my education, I kind of committed myself. I said, okay, I'm going to do this for at least 2 years because I don't think that's fair to myself. And during that time, I kind of built my photography business on the side, but I was still like, to be honest, I wasn't really thinking about using my photography for like climate change or anything like that. For me, it was just like take beautiful pictures of the natural world and hopefully increase people's just like awareness of, you know, natural beauty that's maybe close to home for them, or and through that avenue maybe be the catalyst for some sort of conservation work just out of sheer appreciation of natural spaces. But then when it kind of came time for me to, you know, either keep photography as a hobby or take the leap of faith and, you know, go full time with it, I told myself that, you know, I couldn't go full time just to take pretty pictures.
Okay.
Like that wasn't enough for me. Like I knew that I needed to use my photography for something much more fulfilling than that, because at the end of the day I knew I wasn't just like going to a different job. I was, you know, starting down a path of a new career. And I still say it to this day, like I hope, you know, my health allows me to work until I'm dead. You know, like that's like I don't see the need to ever retire because I genuinely love what I'm doing, and the work that this kind of storytelling component that I've, you know, incorporated into my work now, with the main objective of wilderness conservation and climate change awareness. That's extremely fulfilling, and yeah, I could do that every day for the rest of my life.
What's the old adage? You'll never work a day in your life if you love what you do.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And yes, spreading the word about climate justice. That is a lifelong journey anyway. Um,
yeah.
when you're behind the lens, do you ever get that butterfly feeling like you know something magical is happening and you captured it? What?
Yeah, usually it's like the feeling is closer to an adrenaline rush than most people might think. And you get that buzz, you get that adrenaline, or at least I do, when something is happening. For me, it's like in the natural world, or maybe like in my own creative process, that I'm just like, I've never seen that before. You know, I
Yeah.
like, while I admire the work of many photographers, I have no ambition of recreating anyone else's shots. That it just doesn't fulfill me in the same way as coming up with new and unique ideas. And a lot of times that involves, you know, working really hard to access these places, whether it's, you know, going on technical climbs to get to mountaintops, or backpacking for days in the wilderness. So a lot of times that kind of creates the magic as well, because you're like, I am in this place that not that many people get to be, and I brought a camera here.
Right.
So that sometimes creates that buzz. But sometimes it's just like, I could be photographing somewhere that I photographed 50 times, but the light is just different that day.
That
And
day.
it makes me see a landscape that I'm familiar with in a completely new way. And that is like, that's just such a beautiful thing. And that's one of the reasons why, as much as I love
Hang on one second if you can hear me, because
visiting new,
hang on
because
one
you're
second.
constantly process.
Hang on one second. The connection got a little spotty right there.
Oh yeah, I saw my Wi-Fi was um
Talking about seeing the light is just different throughout that day. If it's still spotty, that's cool. Here we go. Are you back? I see you now, and it's not frozen
are we
anymore.
good? Yep.
It's a little delayed, I think, the audio versus the video, but
Okay.
yeah, I think where I heard you last was, even though you had been to the same location, the light was just that much different, so you were seeing it in a different way. And actually,
Yeah, and
that's one way I was reviewing your work for the show too, was I was just seeing, your contrast, and it made me think about how you were able to go to these areas that didn't have as much light pollution.
yeah, light pollution's a big one. And so I moved to Bend, Oregon from Atlanta, and and I became, a big fan of photographing night skies out there, but I needed to study like light pollution maps and figure out shooting locations, like if I wanted to shoot a meteor shower or the Milky Way or something, figure out, the orientation of where I'd be shooting, and then figure out, where I could drive to that in that orientation, like there wasn't a big city for another 50 miles or something, because light pollution on the eastern seaboard, it's so much more of a densely populated area than in the Pacific Northwest. So that's been refreshing coming out here. I mean, I've photographed the Milky Way like 12 minutes from my house. So that's a real treat. And places are growing here as well. It's one of those things, like, people need to go somewhere. So I don't have maybe as much disdain for it as other people, but I'm also not opposed to, going for a long hike to get a beautiful starry sky either.
Absolutely. Well, I know Earth Creative is so happy to have you as part of the group. I'm curious, how did you become part of the group? I don't think I know this story.
Yeah, so I'm a part of a co-op style gallery down in Sun River, which is just south of Bend. And we each of the artists have to work a couple shifts a month, and I was down there, and Kathy DeWalt was
Yes.
visiting the gallery, and her and her husband were looking at my work, and I started talking to them, and it was just a really genuine conversation about art, and why artists kind of do what they do,
He
and
is a
and
true champion for Earth Creative and
yeah.
climate justice.
Yeah, and so when I learned that they're from the Seattle area, I shared that I'd been working on this book and project up in the Skagit, and they're really curious about that. And when I told them a little bit about that, Kathy said, "I'm gonna introduce you to someone that I think would be, really good to talk to, and maybe you can become part of Earth Creative, and if not, just Christoph would just be a great person to get connected with and get to know." And so yeah, so she put me in touch with Christoph, and we set up a meeting to kind of get to know each other. And I showed up to the Zoom meeting 30 minutes late, making a great impression. And it wasn't even because I was, doing anything else. Like, I was at my computer working, and had the event calendar, marked for PM instead of AM.
Oh, of
So that's
course.
kind
Oh, yeah, we've all done
of
it.
classic, yeah, classic mistake. And I'm quite a forgetful person, so I can't rely on my memory for that stuff.
No, man, you're so organized sending us all the materials for your work. So I wouldn't have known I wouldn't have thought you were disorganized at all, at all.
No,
But
I just do it when it's immediately asked, because if I wait a day or two, yeah, it'll never get done.
yeah, that's very good. Keep that up. As an artist advisor, I'm going to tell you that that is an excellent idea, and I appreciate all of that. Well,
Yeah,
as
of
we
course.
conclude up here, why don't you tell everybody how they can get a hold of you? You know, if they want to buy your book, how should they do that? And then do you like people going to your Instagram, or do you like just your website? What do you prefer?
Yeah, either way. I mean, Instagram is good because you can always see, the latest, work that I'm putting out. So my Instagram is the letter C as in Christian, Murillo photo, and my website is murillophoto.com.
Okay, great. And it sounds like
Best
this might be good timing
things, and
for us
my
to end our
book
conversation
just
because you know
concluded.
what, it froze again. So this is perfect timing. Perfect timing. You got in your website,
Oh, okay.
your Instagram, and I want to thank you so much, all your time and energy with what you're doing for Earth justice and climate science, and sharing the words and trying to help everybody connect. I really appreciate that. I'm in full agreement with
No,
you.
it's just it's a real pleasure just to be a part of such an inspiring group of artists, and I'm really excited for the bait show coming up. Looking forward to meeting everyone.
Okay, good. It sounds like you're going to be in attendance, right? April
Yeah.
22nd.
Yep, I'll be there.
Okay, perfect. I look forward to then. See you soon, Christian.
All right, thanks a lot, Jody. Take care.
Bye.